Yeah, serial entrepreneur just means failed entrepreneur. Since Zuckerberg's not a serial anything, just keep doing it. And I like FailCon. I really like the chance to be here, so thank you. Thanks for welcoming me. And if we're being honest, when we're talking about startups, we're talking about failure. So this is like the only honest entrepreneurship conference there is. All the other conferences, are designed to sell you something. And so there's this like massive mythological industrial complex that's designed to make founders look like a genius. Like they just had the idea, right away, and boom, wave your hands a little bit, and then they were a huge success, and they come up on stage and tell you all about it. And by the way, you should sign up for their product, or you should make sure to tell your friends, or like make sure every VC knows that this is the next hot thing, or whatever they're selling. And that's what we do as entrepreneurs. And so in the entrepreneurship movies, really any movie that has like a plucky protagonist who's going to do something crazy. You go and you tell your parents, like, I'm dropping out of school, I'm going to do this startup, and you tell all your friends, and you have mentors, and you tell people, your professor, whoever you care about, you're going to do this crazy thing. And in Act 1 of the movie, they're always like, kid, don't do it. You've got a nice job, if you graduate from school, you're on the track. This thing is crazy, it's never going to work. And what's really satisfying in the movies is at the end, when you get to go back to those people and be like, ha ha, right? I was right, and you were wrong, and my thing worked out, and you shouldn't have told, and they pretend that they were supportive the whole time. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, so I want you to, let's just talk about real life for a second. You asked about my biggest failure. I was in college, and I tried to do the Zuckerberg thing way before it was cool. And I had this idea for a startup. This was in 1999, where we would have college students from Ivy League schools. See, this sounds like a good idea too. They would create online profiles for the purpose of sharing.
Sounds like Facebook.
Right, doesn't that seem like a really good idea? But we had this idea, we were convinced that the right way to do that was to have them create the online profiles to help them get a job. They should share them with employers and not with each other, because that's a real business with a real business model. You're supposed to laugh, that's supposed to be funny. And I did the thing, we dropped out of school, we, like to say we had the first half of the social network experience. Scene for scene, all the things that they did, we did. All our friends joined the company. We worked incredibly hard. We drank a lot of beer. I think we even had those special whiteboard pens you write on your windows with. Everything, just like the movie. But at the end, when we had the scene where you get to go back to all those people who told you were crazy to start the company, we had to do, which is, if you haven't had this experience, it's incredibly humiliating. Go back to them and be like, actually, you were right. That thing didn't work out, and now I'm behind, and I should have listened to you in the first place, and everything you said was going to happen, all the reasons this is a terrible idea turned out to be correct, and sorry about that. And that's such a horrible feeling. I think that's almost a good enough reason not to become an entrepreneur in the first place. If you really think about it, that is the most likely outcome of any new venture, and it really is I can't describe to you how embarrassing and how painful it is to have to admit that you were wrong, and like really publicly wrong. Like if you go, you can now everything's online, so you can read like articles from my college student newspaper where I'm like boasting about we're the future of the internet and all this stuff about how great we are and how stupid every other company is. And like I read that stuff now and it just makes me want to. It's an incredibly bad feeling. It's like, wow, what an arrogant, stupid kid who's like about to run into a wall full speed. And in the cartoons, when you run to a wall full speed, you leave that yourself shape cut out in the wall and go straight through. Not in real life. So yeah, it was horrible.
So failure for you was a lesson in humility more than anything else.
Well, yeah, it should be. I know that not everybody has that experience. In fact, if you look at this, at the academic research on entrepreneurship, we here at Silicon Valley, we often talk about how you want to invest in a failed entrepreneur. That's one of the great things about Silicon Valley, because they learned really important lessons on somebody else's dime. But if you look at the stats, failed entrepreneurs are actually not, on average, more successful than either first-time entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who had a previous success. It's about a wash. And I think I know why. It's because some people fail and learn from the experience, but some people keep running full speed into the wall over and over again, making the same mistake, in company after company. So they're really dragging down the stats. Don't be those people. And then we can boost the stats as the community of fail-ites. We can do better.
So with that first startup, I think it was called Catalyst Recruiting, Did you have any users? Did you raise funds? And what did you learn that you took to your next startup, which may also have been a bit of a failure?
Yeah, we did it. So in 1999, I was living in New Haven, Connecticut. I now understand as a heuristic when the bubble comes to New Haven, Connecticut, call the top. So we were like the last people to get the memo that there was this high-tech startup boom happening and free money was available to anyone who could put two sentences together about entrepreneurship. And I was a computer science major. I've been programming computers my whole life, so I understood the technical part of it. And we actually built a really cool product. We had this, online profile sharing and resume database, all this stuff. It was all open source, LAMP stack when that was still like quite new. And we had, I don't remember how many users, I think hundreds of thousands of users. So getting students to sign up for the profile, that actually should have been a clue that maybe there's something there. But we were so focused on the business part of it that we wanted to have companies buy access to the database for recruiting purposes. We were just fixated on that. And we had no ability whatsoever to get companies to give us money. So that's been kind of an important part of the business plan. And so yeah, we raised money. We raised what to me at the time seemed an incredible large amount of money. We basically set it on fire. So those investors would have been better off, shredding it or putting it in the NASDAQ or whatever. Because when the bubble burst, here's all you need to know about the quality of the investors who gave us money, was that they gave us money. So everyone got wiped out on the same day practically, and all of a sudden we couldn't get, raise money had been like this easy thing, I can't describe how easy it was, and then all of a sudden how hard it was. And we didn't understand a clue. We had no idea of what had happened. We didn't understand the global macroeconomic context. We just were like, wow, free money, it's not there, and so the whole thing imploded. But it's still a good idea. I still think it's a good idea. I think it was a cool product. It had a lot of potential. If we had known anything about what entrepreneurship was, we could have made a success out of it, but we didn't.
So imagine that you're sitting here and talking to a young version of yourself, and you came to you with this product now, knowing what you know. What would you say? Would you suggest pivoting, which is something that you talk a lot about? Would you suggest throwing in the towel? What would be your advice to your younger self?
Problem is my younger self didn't listen to anybody. I'm cringing thinking about it. Let's be honest. I really thought I knew everything. And, and I was a genius. I read the same magazine articles and business cases that you did, and the protagonist doesn't need to listen to other people. Like, the most important skill they have is ignoring other people. That's what makes them superheroes. So I was just like, what could I have said? I don't know. I think part of what I do now with the Lean Startup, part of what inspires me to do the work that I do is I have this belief, I don't know if it's actually true in my case, but I've seen it in the case of a lot of other people, especially engineers, people who get into entrepreneurship not because they're excited about the hype of building a business and getting rich. You can go work on Wall Street to get rich. You want to get, you want to get rich by being humiliated and trying to build a product. That's actually a special kind of person who cares about building the thing. And there's a kind of rational discipline to engineering, to product development that is actually really cool. And when I first started talking about Lean Startup and formalizing what I believed, I was like, I think I can get through to people who are currently doing stuff that's insane. If I can work from first principles and say, let me explain to you why you should do things the way I say. It's not just because, as most startup advice, that I heard was like, hey, hi everybody, I'm a rich person, and I did this thing, and then subsequently I got rich. So therefore, if you do the same thing that I did, you're instantly going to get rich too. And anyone who's taken a logic class or even got through kindergarten should be able to see that that is not a good logical syllogism. Right? There's no reason to believe that just because someone stands on stage and tells you something made them rich, that's going to make you rich. That's like late night TV, but that's a lot of entrepreneurship advice is like that. And so I thought if we could make the practice of entrepreneurship a little bit more scientific and make testable, falsifiable predictions for the science geeks who are here, that could help people like my younger self actually contemplate what I was doing and maybe come to a realization that we were on the wrong track. And of course that's why pivoting is such an important part of entrepreneurship, is because failure is not the problem. The problem is going all in on the failure. So when there's still money left, if we can figure out that we're on the right track, we can switch, we can pivot to a different strategy without abandoning the overall vision. That's what the Lean Startup movement is all about, is helping people get to the moment of the pivot a little sooner. So I think if I could have somehow made that case to my younger self, maybe there's a 1 in 10 chance they would have listened to me. and had a chance to be successful. But a chance to be successful is actually huge, since most entrepreneurs have no chance. That was actually a major improvement.
So at this point, for anybody that hasn't read the book, can you kind of sum up what the lean startup mentality is?
Sure. For those that don't know, the word lean comes from lean manufacturing. So it's not about being cheap, it's about being fast. And what we want to do is take a startup and treat it like an experiment. To say the purpose of doing a startup, purpose of building a product or adding features, all the activities that we do in a startup, those are experiments that are designed to help us figure out if we're on the path to a sustainable business or not. And the biggest waste in product development is building something that nobody wants. So like we had this experience in several of my companies. You build something that nobody wants and you're bragging the whole time about how you're doing it on time and on budget. It's like, we're right on time, driving this car right off this cliff, very efficiently. Why? No, efficiency in entrepreneurship, which is different than traditional product development, efficiency in entrepreneurship is figuring out the right thing to build very efficiently. So getting on the right track in the first place. It's much more like steering than just slamming on the accelerator. So that's what the lean startup is in a series of techniques like pivots, minimum viable products, split testing, continuous deployment. There's all these tactics and techniques that are designed to help us get to that moment of the pivot, figure out if we're on the right track sooner, make a course correction a little bit sooner. We call it the build, measure, learn feedback loop, getting through that loop as quickly as possible. So, you know, I don't want to bore people with the details, but that's what we do.
So what were kind of the biggest problems that you saw entrepreneurs doing and the biggest mistakes they were making? Was it that they were trying to perfect the product before they got any users or raise money too fast? You know, what are some of your complaints?
I mean, the problem when startups fail is that there's so many mistakes to choose from. How do you know which is the root cause? Right? I really like, you know, and I have some, you know, I've had the kind of the college, or, you know, order of magnitude failures, and I've had the like true VC scale failures, which are like 2 orders of magnitude more expensive, but ultimately exactly the same, which is really sad. Where we so believe our own propaganda that we don't bother to double check if it's correct. So, you know, most entrepreneurs I meet with are like, well, hold on. I understand that those other idiots, you know, in retrospect, everyone looks stupid if they failed. So it's like, yeah, I understand you were stupid and your product sucked, but my product is awesome. And, you know, if I was working on teleportation, would I have to like test with customers? No, okay? Everybody wants to teleport to work instead of commuting, right? And that's actually, I like people who have that kind of belief in their product. Because a statement like that, everybody wants to teleport, is actually an awesome falsifiable hypothesis. It's like, so I'm not saying abandon your vision, I'm saying, let's just double check. What could it hurt? Since everybody wants this product, that also logically means the first 10 people I talk to also will want this product. And I can make a very specific prediction about how many of them will want it, namely all 10. So what could it hurt? Right? On the way to 10 million customers, you must logically first have the first 10. Why don't we just go, you know? And the problem, of course, is that most entrepreneurs think their product is just as good as teleportation, but their customers don't agree. So then who's right? You know, that's the age-old question. And the answer to that question is not either or. It's not like, well, if customers think I'm stupid, then that's it, abandon the vision, go home. That's not a pivot. A pivot is, I want to test my strategy, but the route to get where I want to go, to see if customers will accept it, and if not, find another way. So it's like, I'm going to test every possible way to get to my destination, but I'm still going to keep the destination in mind. So that's, you know, the destination is the vision that we hold at the beginning, and that is really important to maintain throughout the whole course of a startup. Because as soon as you start saying, well, to hell with the vision, I'll just do whatever it takes to like juice the numbers, get customers, you'll be selling pornography in no time. Right? It's a horrible, dark road. It's just like, well, I'll just do whatever it takes to scam people out of money, and that's how, like, just do a Ponzi scheme at that point. You can grow really fast and make a lot of money that way. But hold on, is that why we became entrepreneurs in the first place? If anyone says yes, like, please leave. For the rest of us, we had a vision of how we were going to make the world a better place. So let's stay focused on that vision, but also, vision is a precious thing. Let's not waste it on, you know, faith-based initiatives.
So, pornography, let's not go there, but little confession to make, I'm also a failed entrepreneur. And in my own experience of building a company...
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll just practice doing that next time someone tells you that they failed.
I feel like this is AA.
Yeah.
So, failed entrepreneur, and one of my biggest fears was if I get the product out there and I test it with customers, what if it wasn't ready yet? What if it could have been perfected just that little bit more?
Yeah.
So how do you know when the right time is? You can get your you talk about minimum viable product, your MVP. How do you know when you're ready?
Well, there's a complicated answer and a simple answer. And the complicated answer is MVP is the smallest possible version of a product that can begin the process of learning as soon as possible. So it's a balancing act. We want to condense down the product into the most valuable experiment that we can run. And if you study experiment design in any kind of scientific setting, it's complicated. To design the perfect experiment is an intellectually challenging exercise. But guess what? You don't have to do this intellectually challenging exercise, because I got good news for you. No matter what you think the minimum viable product is, I guarantee you what you need to do is cut it in half, and then cut it in half again, and ship that. Because every entrepreneur is falls in love with the maximum version of the product, because as you said, you have this fear, well, what if we put it out there and customers hate it? Then but they would have liked it if we just done a little bit more work. So the first thing is, minimum viable product is not about having a big splashy launch on stage. You can still do that later after you know all the answers and pretend it's a launch. The press will go along with it, I'm sad to say. So it's no problem. You can be rewritten as a genius when you're successful, just like all the other founders were. So you're not foreclosing that option. But while you're in the testing mode, let's say it's true that your product is 80% of the way there and another 20%, so customers hated it 80%, but they like it at the extra. Well, it's okay. Show the 80% to some customers, they hate it, and then add the 20%. And then they're going to love it, right? So if that's true at macro scale, it'll be true at micro scale too. So the nice thing about MVP is that you have to pass through the MVP on your way to the final product anyway. It's not like the product is all done, 100% done on day X, and it was 0% done the day before. I meet with startups all the time that have an amazing demo that's really good. And I'm like, well, how many customers have seen this? It's like, oh, we can't show it to customers. But it's good enough for you to use yourself, but you're not willing to let any customers. How arrogant. You get to be the arbiter of who gets to use this product. You told me this product was going to make customers' lives better, but you would intentionally deny them the opportunity to have their lives improved because your ego is so precious you can't show them something ugly, really? Right? When you get down to it, all this crap is about fear and ego and vanity. It has nothing to do with what customers actually want or what make their lives better. So if you take the visionaries, entrepreneurs' credo seriously, we actually are trying to make the world a better place, then there's no time to waste on vanity and ego. That stuff is in the way of really finding out how to make the world that place that we envision.
Have you ever pulled any crazy stunts to get your product in front of customers?
Well, yes. But people love the stunts, okay?
So they work?
What's that?
They work?
Well, I mean, they work. Because what most stunts do is help us achieve the wrong goal very efficiently. And the wrong goal that we're always trying to get is lots of users. And that's almost always a mistake, because if the first 100 customers hate your product, what's the learning value of the 101st customer that hates your product? Or the next 900, or the next 10,000 customers who all give you the same feedback? I was with a very famous startup that blew up. I won't name their name, but I was with them maybe 6 months before the explosion. And they had done everything possible to jack up the numbers. Just had this incredible number of users who all were giving them extremely consistent feedback. In fact, in prep for the meeting, I had run my own survey on Twitter, just asking people who used that product what they thought about it. I used something called the Net Promoter Score, which gives you a number for how much customers like a product from negative 100 to positive 100. And Apple is plus 60, and all normal companies are plus 30. This product was negative 60. I've never seen a customer response this low. And I was like, guys, I want to tell you what your own customers think of your product. And they were like, yeah, that's true, but if we just get more users, we'll get to critical mass, and we'll be fine. There's this belief that network effects will kick in and everything will be fine. But that's just astrology talking. There's no theory of what is actually supposed to happen at the critical mass point that's not happening now. It's not like critical mass is unmeasurable from 0 to 99%, and then when the 1 millionth customer signed up, boom, now the network effects kick in. If network effects are present, they can be measured the whole time. Let us see the customer retention increasing cohort by cohort, and then I'll know that your network effects are real. So yeah, stunts are not the way to go.
So you mentioned the press earlier. When's the right time to pitch your product, write up your press release? I see a lot of startups pitching me, and sometimes it seems like a little bit too soon, or that they kind of view us as a gateway to just more users.
The more users drug. I mean, with all due respect to the press, I generally think the right time to do that activity is never. Because if you look at the really successful startups, first of all, it would actually be great for the press. They stop wasting their time writing all these articles about startups that are about to fail, and instead could actually do real investigative journalism, which would make the world a better place. That would be awesome. Yeah, listen, don't hold your breath. Because everybody watching right now, you read those articles and send all kinds of click-throughs and page views to and vanity metrics to the sites that host them. You know what I'm talking about. We're the problem as much as the press. But if the goal is to learn as quickly as possible, what's the learning value of pitching stories to the press? I say 0. So if you look at the really successful companies, the Facebooks and the Googles and the eBays of the world, they didn't pitch the press at the beginning as a way to get more users. It became a story, a legitimate news story, that gazillions of people were addicted to those products. And long after they had found product market fit, and long after they were having significant success, people in the press were like, hey, maybe we should write about this thing. It wasn't prospective, it was retrospective. It was actually news. See, we're trying to use the tech press to make news, but the press is supposed to report the news. We should go make the news on our own and then come back and be like, by the way, we made actual news. So, if I could wave a magic wand, I would say no more press releases, no more launch announcements in the press at all, a complete waste of time, but also no more vanity metrics. So I used the term before, vanity metrics are the numbers you put in your press release to make your competitors feel bad about themselves. Right? And it's really fun. It's a time-honored tradition to make your competitors feel like crap. Amen. But the problem is we start to believe our own vanity metrics, propaganda. So like when you look at a site that's like, we've had 100 million messages sent, you're like, wow, that's really impressive. Or is it? What does that mean? Does that mean 100 million people sent one message and then turned out? Or does that mean that one guy really likes this product? We don't know. The vanity metrics have no information content. That's why we're happy to have the press print them. Because we know our competitors can't learn anything about our business, right? But then if that's just fancy for lying. We're just lying and making ourselves look good. Well, let's just stop doing that. And so if I could wave a magic wand, the press would never print vanity metrics, only the real metrics, that the actual dashboards that companies use to run their business. And if companies aren't willing to share that information, they don't get the press coverage, which actually would be good because most of these companies don't need press coverage. So it'd actually be better. It would be a true win-win-win. But like I said before, don't hold your breath.
I'm not sure whether I'm going to stop getting pitches now, but...
Listen, probably not. If everyone just listened to me.
So, I was reading one of your interviews recently, and I just love this phrase. You said, most entrepreneurs are boring and embarrassing. So tell me a little bit more about that, because right now it seems like so glamorous to be an entrepreneur. We've got
so exciting,
reality
cool.
TV, we've got that movie, The Social Network. but you tell me it's boring and embarrassing?
It is. The actual practice of entrepreneurship is not movie worthy, okay? It's really boring. Yeah, the people who are really great entrepreneurs are willing to sit and just spend astronomical amounts of time obsessing about little details, dealing with like the political drama of getting a team, even a small team aligned around a common vision. It's incredibly difficult. And if you look at the movies, all that work happens during Act 2 of the movie, what I call a photo montage. Right? So in between like Act 1 where we have an amazing, great idea, and Act 3 where we sue each other, or we have whatever, drive fancy cars, all the fun stuff, there's just like usually 1 or 2 minute snippet with no dialogue in it where we kind of show the entrepreneurs at work going from like shaking hands with first customer to being on cover of magazines. And okay, that makes a good movie, because what actually happens during the photo montage? It's things like product prioritization meetings. Okay, who's been in a product prioritization meeting recently? Hands up. Who feels like that would make a great movie? I rest my case. It's really boring, okay? That's the actual work that influences the outcome of entrepreneurship. And if you're not willing to do that work, you're guaranteed to fail. And if you think it's going to be like, in the movies, have I got a bridge to sell it? I mean, yeah, I think it's absolutely terrible that entrepreneurship is like, I guess it's kind of a seasonal phenomenon, if you notice. So like, I'm a fan of, Game of Thrones and all that, so I always say winter is coming. The seasons come and they go, and entrepreneurship is cool, and then it's not cool. And those who really want to do the work of building startups need to be prepared to operate, in all seasons. And in fact, during winter is when many of the great companies were founded. So I can't come soon enough for me.
So does the lean startup mentality, does that apply to all companies at all stages and sizes? Is there any, maybe for example, biotech, is there any type of company that you think that this wouldn't really work for?
Yeah, as a professional expert, what I'm supposed to say is everybody can always use Lean Startup as long as they buy 10 copies of the book. But no, Lean Startup is a methodology for a specific situation. And it's for situations, what I call the entrepreneurial domain, which is situations of extreme uncertainty. So when we're building a new company, but we basically already know all the details, like if you're franchising an existing small business and taking it into a new geography, the level of uncertainty of the success is not zero, but it's relatively low. If you're doing something, if you're building a product exactly like you've built before, when I get heckled in an audience, for some reason I always get heckled by people from the video game industry. There'll be someone in the room like, this thing is stupid, you don't need Lean Startup, just hire a good product manager. I'm like, sir, what do you do? I'm a product manager. I'm really shocked. What do you do? And what do you work on? I work at Electronic Arts. Oh, and what product do you work on? I'm working on Madden 2012. Is Madden 2012 really different from Madden 2011? Oh, yes. Oh yes, it has much better graphics. Is the pricing the same? Distribution channel the same? Use case the same? Platform the same? Customer need the same? Customer segment the same? Time of day the product will be used the same? Okay? But it has better graphics, did I get this right? You're right. Yes, you, sir, do not need Lean Startup. Just go do your waterfall development, I'm sure you'll be fine. Hope nobody invents social games. Right? As long as no disruption is coming, you're fine. Just do your thing. And that's what this is about. When you're facing disruptive innovation, trying to do something actually new, something that is not just different than what's happened before, but fundamentally at odds with the business models and what we call the sustaining innovation paradigm of what's come before, that's when Lean Startup can work for you. Now, there's a second element, in addition to that uncertainty, that makes Lean Startup really cool, which is when we have the capabilities and tools to do very rapid cycle experimentation. So as the cycle time comes down in a given industry and uncertainty goes up, we're in the sweet spot for a Lean Startup. But what's cool about the semiconductor revolution and software and kind of this whole thing that we're all a part of here in Silicon Valley is every business is becoming a software business. So cycle times everywhere are going down. Like, I never sit in a room, I do a lot of industry conferences now, I meet a lot of big company people, I never say to anybody like, yeah, in my industry, cycle, everything's getting slower and uncertainty has been banished. Everything's very certain, right? Uncertainty is on the rise everywhere and everything is going faster. And for our colleagues in established business, that sucks. I mean, that's causing serious heartburn and loss of sleep, but for us, that is the entrepreneurship, that entrepreneurial opportunity that we face. So I think it's great times to be an entrepreneur.
So what about with these, large companies like Google and Intuit? And I know you were at Intuit recently, and you had some of the engineers and product team pitch their ideas. Yeah. So tell me about that experience. I mean, how did you get them to rapidly turn around a product that usually they'd spend months on? It's
a surreal experience. I mean, this is so the book came out almost exactly a year ago. So, I mean, this thing has totally taken over my life. And you gotta understand, I was an engineer my whole career. Okay? You picture that canonical kid in their parents' basement, just programming all day, all night. That was me. So I really thought that's what I would do for a living. And it's very strange to be considered a business expert and be called into these large companies to talk about innovation, and how they can apply. And I guess I just believed, based on the theory, okay, the theory of Lean Startup, one of its deductive consequences is that this has nothing to do with size of company. So I have this definition in my book. A startup is a human institution designed to create something new under conditions of extreme uncertainty. So we've already talked about when you're trying to pursue disruptive innovation under conditions of extreme uncertainty, and not just build a product, but build an organization around that product. That's the very definition of what big companies are trying to do, the ones that are trying to stay relevant and avoid disruption by doing new product development. So logically speaking, it seemed like, okay, they should be able to use these ideas. But I didn't expect any of them to call me up and say, okay, you said in your book that this 300,000 person company can use your ideas. Come prove it. And I was like, you sure? I don't think I'm actually qualified to do that. It's to the credit of visionaries in a lot of companies, including Scott Cook, founder of Intuit, who said, you don't have to worry about whether you're qualified. Let me worry about that. Come do it anyway. And it's been really cool. Now, big companies face additional challenges. I mean, they have to create a startup inside the company and give it the autonomy and especially the accountability, the right metrics and all this stuff. But now, having participated in that process in a lot of different companies, it's actually almost word for word identical with the negotiation that happens here in Silicon Valley between your typical venture-backed entrepreneur and their VC. Like, the crux of the issue, and a huge part of the parts of Lean Startup that you haven't heard about are the parts in the book that don't fit on a bumper sticker, but actually are the vast majority of the book is concerned with accounting, accountability, like the management practice of holding entrepreneurs accountable. It's like, it's not bumper sticker material. It's not like MVP, which is a great phrase. This is about accounting. It's boring. But what did I say before? Entrepreneurship. The real entrepreneurship is the most boring part. So, see? And that, if you can get those elements right in a big company, I've seen it firsthand. You can build startups inside big companies and have them succeed. So, yeah, I'm a believer. A reluctant convert to that way of thinking.
So some of the bigger business schools like Harvard are now embracing a lot of these kind of entrepreneurial ethics, and a lot of the students, they don't want to go into management, consulting, and finance. They want to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So I know you're doing a little work now to the curriculum. But would you also advise a young entrepreneur to go to business school in the first place? Why not, start a company instead?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons people go to business school, and believe me, when I started out in this business, I had the same low opinion of MBAs that you do. And I think people have to make a personal choice about where they are in stage of life and what they want to do next. And a lot of people who ultimately become entrepreneurs are not currently in their garage hacking on the next thing. They're not sure what they want to do. And when you're in that situation, I think it makes a lot of sense to take activities that increase your option value. Like Zuckerberg was talking about this the other day. You want to boost your flexibility, boost your optionality. And one way to do that is to teach yourself to program and to just start cranking out prototypes like Zuck did. But he had the advantage of being a lifetime programmer. If that's not you, I think another way to increase option value is to go to business school. And there's actually a lot of cool things you can do. Go work at a startup, be somebody's co-founder, apprentice yourself. There's just a ton of stuff you could do to increase option value. One of those things is going to business school. So my point of view is, since people go to business school anyway, we may as well teach them something good about entrepreneurship while they're there. Because, and here's the thing, and this is really important, especially at Harvard, the people who we need to influence the most as entrepreneurs and teach entrepreneurship are not the entrepreneurs. Someone who has that in their blood, who's going to keep running through that wall and eventually break through, they're going to do it whether they go to business school, whether we give them permission or not. I mean, entrepreneurs are not great at respecting permission concept anyway, so they're going to be fine. The people who really need to understand entrepreneurship are the people who are going to ultimately have huge say over the entrepreneurship ecosystem by, say, going into a corp dev job at a big company. See, if you think about who are the leaders in Silicon Valley, who are the people we look up to and we respect and we listen to, it tends to be the people who got really rich. And if you actually work backwards from how did those people where did the money come from? Who wrote the checks? They came from selling a company at massively overvalued prices to AOL, or having some investment banker help them take their company public. Now, who actually made the decision about who should be anointed the next leader of Silicon Valley? That's right, MBAs. And does it really make sense to outsource that function to the corp dev department at AOL? Does that really seem like a good set of people who really understand entrepreneurship in a deep way? And I don't mean to pick on AOL specifically, but they've had some recent egregious examples. And and money's money, so we laud the people whether that made sense or not. So my feeling is, all these people who affect the ecosystem, one way or the other, public policy makers, corp dev officers, private equity dudes, the LPs who fund all of our venture capitalists, the venture capitalists themselves, you'll see MBAs all over that spectrum. And for them to graduate from their program not knowing the first thing about entrepreneurship, that's bad for all of us. So, for the first time last year in Harvard Business School, every student, in order to graduate, had to create a company. Which I was like, what? They didn't have to do that before? No, you didn't have to manage anything. You just had to sit and study cases. So now they actually put them in teams. They give them, I think, $100 each, and they make them go build and sell a product. And the results in the first year were kind of hilarious. But really, I think are going to, that whole process of bringing Lean Startup into the curriculum, of making them actually test and build and recognize their own limits as part of the MBA program, it's going to have a huge impact. And because other schools copy Harvard, I'm hopeful that that initiative will spread far and wide.
And failing in school is a safer way to fail.
Amen. Zuckerberg did it.
All right, so we're going to turn to Q&A. Does anybody have a question for Eric?